Hello AMP1 students. This video we are going to start talking about Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is entitled Atoms, Ions, and Molecules. And if you recall from Chapter 1, we did the levels of organization of the human body. And the very simplest level of organization was the atoms and the molecules, the macromolecules, and the organelles. So we really want to focus on the chemicals within the body and their structure and how they function, because it's going to give us a much better understanding of how the human body works and how those processes happen. So, for example, things like we're all pretty familiar. We can see and we know that our bodies can move, our muscles contract, and our bodies will move. We know that our heart pumps blood. We know that we breathe, so we have this respiration going on. We know that when we eat something, something happens to it in our digestive system that breaks it down, and we can use those nutrients for other body processes. We know that our nervous system is sending signals to different parts of the body. So those are all body processes that are going on, just a few of them. So when we go to study those body processes, so we'll say muscle contraction, which causes our bodies to move. It's when we underlying that process is going to be these chemicals and their shapes, and then how they interact with each other or react with each other. So if you really want to appreciate and understand these processes that are going on in the body, you really have to understand the chemicals that are involved in those processes. And that's what we'll do in anatomy and physiology. We will dive deep into more of the details of why for example, if we're talking about muscle contraction, why a muscle will actually shorten in order to pull on our bones and cause movement to happen. So we know that happens, but we're going to go down to the chemical level, and we're going to talk about which molecules, atoms are responsible for that to happen. So it's really important to understand and appreciate the body processes. It's really important to have a strong understanding of what's going on chemically. So what the chemicals are in the body, what their structures are, and of course the way they're shaped, remember, determines what their function is. So they have to be a certain shape to function. So you need to know what their functions are, and then how they react with each other as well to cause all these body processes to occur in the body. So we want to focus on chemistry in chapters 2 and 3, so that when we get farther along and talk about specific body processes, we'll have a better understanding of what's causing those body processes to happen. Okay, so the other thing that to kind of make chemistry more relevant to anatomy and physiology is that and I'll go back to our chapter 2 here, because it actually has this person here called a clinical chemist working with a sample from, I'm not sure if that's blood, or a tissue or something like that, and a machine here. So the cool thing, I think, about chemistry is that if somebody is having a body process that isn't working properly, so let's say that a person's not able to move their leg, or their muscles aren't contracting like they're supposed to, then they're doing it abnormally. So then and we need to figure out why. So one of the things that we can do is take a blood sample, and we can run it through a machine, and we can test like all the chemicals that are in the blood. And so I have a picture here. There we go. This is an example. They call it a chemistry panel. And so now this has quite a few chemicals listed. But just this kind of hopefully gives you an idea of how understanding chemistry is practical in the medical field. So you can see some chemicals here. Probably you guys have all heard of sodium, potassium chloride, bicarbonate. Probably maybe heard of calcium, definitely, phosphate, proteins. There's some that are abbreviated. But anyway, this is just an example of a chemistry panel. So they take a sample of blood, run it through a machine, and then they can see how much all of the what the amount is of all of these different chemicals in the blood. And so say we have that person that's not able to contract their muscles normally, or can't contract them at all, or we have some sort of problem going on with muscle contraction. So sometimes the chemistry panel can give us a idea of why that's not happening. So in this chemistry panel, I kind of picked one that had some abnormal values. So sodium and potassium and the calcium. Yeah, so here's some these are actually ions, which we'll talk about, but they're all abnormal, and those three, sodium, potassium, and calcium, are three very important chemicals for the process of muscle contraction. So if they are not in the normal range, so remember when we talked about homeostasis, we said that certain things had to stay within a range or at a set point in order for body processes to happen normally. So when they get out of that range, or get too low or get too high, that can cause the body processes not to function properly or not function at all. So the chemistry panel is a way to just one of the things that we can do to help kind of figure out why a body process may not be happening like it's supposed to, and then hopefully come up with some way to treat that person so that they can regain that normal body process or the normal functioning of that body part. So hopefully that gives you a example of how practically we use chemistry and anatomy and physiology. Alright, so I will see you in the next video, and we'll start going through the learning objectives and what you need to know about chemistry.